Listen, in a world of economic uncertainty, safeguarding your retirement savings is more important than ever. Gold is a trusted store of value, providing stability for centuries. With a gold IRA from Noble Gold Investments, you can protect your financial future with the enduring power of precious metals. Vote for the timeless safety of gold and silver in 2024 and get up to 10 1-ounce silver Trump coins or a 10-ounce silver American flag bar with a qualifying account. Noble Gold Investments, your partner in financial peace of mind in 2024. Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. An inspired mantra stands: we're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. I'm excited to be back. I was gone for a few days, and I want to share what happened in those days, but more importantly, what became so very apparent. But first, let me welcome you on X, Rumble, and YouTube in a live chat. Ronnie, thank you so much for being a moderator in a live chat. It's an honor to have you. Laura, Randy, welcome. Raymond, I saw Raymond. So good to see you, brother. Of course, Christine's in the live chat, the wise thumbs. And who else is here today? I think people are still gathering. Cynthia's here. YouTube, thank you for putting out the notifications. In the last few days, my son Noah and I, along with a small group of other men, were out in the wilderness, and it was a survival trip. So, we roughed it, very much roughed it. And when you're in a situation like that, and I've spent a lot of time in nature, but I've never done anything like this, where literally you bring almost nothing. A very, very few bare essentials, but you really rough it. There are few things that become very clearer than ever, and are highly, I think, significant for everyone in this world. So there are just some truths that become that much more apparent in a situation like that, when literally, if you put it bluntly, it is a survival, a life or death situation that you're constantly in, because there is nothing to rely on outside of you, the small group of people. And between that small group of people, some skills and knowledge, some have more, some have less. And some things just stick out to you when you have that. And I'm going to talk about the experience, where we went, how we set up, what we did in depth in our locals community later today at 1 p.m. Central. So I'm going to talk, really about the details of the trip and what we did and what we learned. But I want to take this show here to point out the lessons that became so clear, that I hope we can all embrace even more as we're going through, and I also unplugged for a few days from what is happening in the world, from the events around us. I assumed that regardless of my watching it or not, it was still going to go at a very, very fast pace. And coming back, I checked in a little bit, and it was going at a fast pace, and things are unfolding, and things are coming down. This, as we've said so many times, this insane Babylonian satanic system, whatever you want to call it, is coming down. It's coming down at a fast pace, and the insanity within it is becoming so much more apparent now every day. Here's the interesting thing, and I have a list of 7 lessons that I want to go through with you, but here's the one thing that became very clear to me. 99.5% of the things that we as a society talk about, that we philosophize about, that we theorize about, that we fight over, have zero bearing, zero, in the situation where I was over the last few days. Zero. It does not matter what you identify as. None of that matters in nature when you're surviving. How all the million little ways that we invented to offend each other or feel offended, none of that matters whatsoever. It has no bearing. And it becomes so apparent how many illusory thought bubbles we created in this illusory matrix system and how clear it becomes out there that none of that really truly matters and is the truth. So I wanted to run through a list of a few things with you that I've talked about before, but that have just they there's a whole new shine on these truths, a whole new and more solidified perspectives. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. So here's number one, and this is really what I call the path to freedom, if you will. And that, when you don't have much time in that situation because you're working constantly. I told Christine last night the simplest things that we do within a matter of seconds take an hour out there or sometimes hours to accomplish. But the number one lesson that became so clear, we're all in a path to freedom, all of you here or you wouldn't be here, is you must own your life. What does that mean? Well, this has multiple meanings, but the first and foremost thing is that most people have a sense of not being the owners of their own life. Either it's because they have obligations to others, many obligations. It's because the way their life is set up, a 9 to 5 job, all that stuff that keeps them in a box that they can't seem to get out of. They feel like they're trapped in it. And the first step is not trying to escape immediately, like quitting your job or stuff like that, but taking ownership and assuming ownership over your life and saying, like, henceforth from here on out, I will assume ownership over my life again. I will not push it out to somebody else, responsibilities, decisions, all that. I will take that back to me. And I will look at my life as something that I own, maybe in partnership with the prime creator, sure. But that is a decision that when you're in the matrix, it seems like it's optional. But when you are in and I want to refer to nature, even though this might be a hijacked artificial reality, I want to refer to nature as a natural space. When you're out there, you literally must own your life. There's no one to own it for you. There's simply no one or nothing that you can push that onto. And so however you felt about it before, in a setting that is survival oriented, you must own your life. But in a setting where you're on the path to freedom and you want to live a free life, understanding that is a journey, or understanding it's a journey, it's not a destination. So on that path to freedom, the number one decision is to own your life. The second really, really important thing is you must own your thoughts. And this is another thing that when you are constantly in the matrix of things, where either that's what you see in the world around you on social media, if you watch news, whatever, alternative or mainstream, whatever, if you really follow that, there's a chance that if you don't have practices and rituals and don't go out to nature a lot, don't do these things, that the lines become very blurred as to what are your own thoughts and what are just thoughts that you hear from others, you see from others, and you absorb them into you. And again, it becomes very, very clear, very apparent that when you're out in a natural setting, and I'll share with you one thing from this experience. This is why I chose that title, 7 Lessons That I Learned from Sleeping with Spiders, is at night in this setting that we had, um, I laid down on the ground. We lay down on the ground. Uh, we had a small tarp that we laid on, but basically, when you lay down, that throughout the night, all kinds of spiders and bugs and are going to crawl over you. There's only so much you can do to mitigate that. I mean, at night, you take a smoke bath, from the fire. You take a smoke bath that repels some of it, but you lay down and that that is going to happen. There's a zero chance that that's not going to happen. So owning your thoughts doesn't just mean to question what kind of belief systems and ideas you have, but to become to be in charge again, to know that you can actually steer that, to know that you can actually change them. So when you worry about stuff, that you can actually transmute those worries into more constructive thoughts, that you can use your thoughts as either a powerful tool or as a destructive force, as a self-destructive force. So when you lay down in the woods at night on the ground and it's pitch black, then those thoughts are the only thing that you have. And if these thoughts are not really your own, if the things you imagine are not your own, if that is something that was captured by this matrix out there, it can be a very long night. It can be a very painful night. And I was as I was laying there, I was thinking about immediately, sort of thinking about, you know, I can either be a foreign body in this environment that I'm in, and that way everything will perceive me as a foreign body in this natural setting, or I can choose to become a part of it like I really am. Like, we're only in our fake matrix civilized reality, we pretend that we are not a part of nature, that we can separate ourselves from it. And the more we separate ourselves from it, the sicker we become on all levels. But out there, you can't separate yourself. But when you give yourself over to the illusion that you can, things get very, very messy. So I chose to become a part of it. Doesn't mean it was easy or comfortable. It was quite uncomfortable. But there's something to embrace in that discomfort. And by owning your thoughts, by realizing that you can change so much of your experience just by changing the way you think about something. That's an incredibly important thing that is undervalued in this fake reality and can't be overvalued in the natural setting where this can mean life or death, literally. The third thing on his path to freedom is, and this is a hugely important thing, you must own your decisions. Uh, what I have noticed is that a lot of people that have studied the grand conspiracies of our realm, that have been on the journey, on a rabbit hole, down a rabbit hole to truth, they can see a lot of things, but they often put off decisions to change something uh, because conditions are not right yet. It's not the right time yet. I don't have enough money yet, and I've talked about this before so many times. Um, but not making a decision is a decision too, and I would say it's the most painful one because you're dragging this out and you're dragging this out, and with every fiber of your being, you have to make decisions. You must make decisions, or your life will not significantly change. And most of you watching really want to level up on whatever level. I know this. We all do. And if you don't own your decisions, thank you, Charlotte. Thank you. If you don't own your decisions within this matrix, life gets really uncomfortable. But there are a number of safety nets that society has created. They're not they're not comfortable, but they're there. There are a number of safety nets. In nature, you don't have those. In nature, you don't have those. So you have to own every decision, every little decision, and you have to be clear about it. So you have to become really clear as to what matters and what doesn't. Right. And so think about what I said earlier. So much of our matrix reality is all created around identifications. What do I look like? How do I present myself? 73, 80 genders, all these little boxes, all these are decisions. Now you have to ask yourself, are these decisions serving me, my freedom, the freedom of those around me? Are they serving my community? Are they serving the greater good? Or are these decisions feeding ego, self-importance, sort of the narcissistic path? And you can ponder if you are in a urban environment where on every corner you have something that you can go purchase, you have some food or you have water, you have the amenities and the comforts, then over time, you think that the decisions, these theoretic decisions matter. When you go out into this nature, this survival setting, these decisions don't matter one bit. I was sitting around a fire one night, and there was a little bit of silence going on. I mean, we were talking, of course, but there was some silence going on. I thought 99% of the decisions that people talk about, think about, lay awake about at night do not matter. They don't matter, and they don't know it. It's such a distraction, and I'll get to why this is such a distraction, but it's such a distraction to the things that actually do matter. And this is what this matrix, this fake reality wants to do. It wants to use up all your lifetime and attention on things that actually do not matter, that do not help you to level up or raise your consciousness or become free, become conscious, become the best possible version of yourself. They distract you. And I understand, and this became very apparent too, is that ignoring what is happening in this world, in politics and wars and all that, does not help one bit. Because even out there in the wilderness, you can feel the effects of it all. You can see the effects of it all. So you can't ignore it. But we have to come to there has to be a clarity here that the decisions that we make, we must make them from a sense of full ownership and from a sense of importance, a value list of what matters and what doesn't. And if you don't do that, if you don't sit down and ever write it out, for example, like what we do a practice in our seminars and our retreats, it's called a value list. So people are encouraged to write down their top 10 values in life at that moment in time. And that works fairly easy for people. They write it out and then they want to make the list longer. And we say, you can do that later, but for now, let's stick to 10. And then the second part of that exercise is okay, so now we want you to order them in the correct order of priority. So what's the highest priority of those values and what is the lowest? And that makes it very difficult for people. And what we say is don't write down what you think in your head. Write it down as you live your life. Look at your current reality. And what people oftentimes realize is that the value that's in the 10th spot in terms of how much attention they give to that, actually they want it to be on number one. So what is between the lived reality and that the wanted reality, how they want it to be, are decisions. It's a decisions to say, well, in truth, I want family to be my number one value, but if I look at my life and how I live it, it's on 10, it's position 10. That's how much time I give it. So what can change that? Well, first and foremost, an ownership over your decisions and to know these are your decisions, it's your life. There's no one who can do that for you. And like I have been saying, um ultimately, and this sounds harsh, ultimately, we have to start living a life where where we literally kill all our excuses. And but killing sounds harsh, but it's the truth. Like I can't stand these conversations any longer where people seek out sometimes assistance or guidance or help with something, and I'm giving it freely, and all they respond with are excuses for why they potentially can't or couldn't do those things. And that's when I leave the conversation. I have no more tolerance for that. And that might be harsh too, but that's how it is. Um, if I'm speaking to an adult, then I must tell you, you must own your decisions. All of them, each and every one of them. Which leads to the next part, lesson 4 on this path to freedom, that becomes very clear when you lay down at night and you're going to sleep with spiders, is you must own the consequences. So in our civilized, uncivilized, fake reality world, the vast majority of people are practicing a transfer of responsibility. So basically, when they do something good, they take the credit. And when a decision leads to an unfavorable outcome, they try to find people to blame, situations, circumstances, whatnot. And and within this structure of the matrix, it feels like you can do that, and it feels like you can get away with that. In a survival situation in the wilderness, you can't. There is nothing. There's nothing to protect you from the consequences of your decisions. So I'll give you a practical example. If you don't plan accordingly and you either ration or know where you will get your next bottle or cup of water, drinking water, you don't drink. It doesn't matter how thirsty you get, you do not drink. And you must own those consequences because there is nothing that will alleviate you from those consequences. So it becomes very apparent, right? That whatever you don't do or decide not to do or decide to do will have natural consequences. And this is true for all of life. Every one of your decisions has consequences. Now, you can try to run, you can try to hide, you can try to transfer the responsibility to somebody else, but it doesn't make it true. It just means that the false comforts of our fake reality give us the impression that we can do that. But truly, we're still experiencing on another level all these consequences, and they hurt us. They hurt us. When when life is broken down to the simplest, most basic things, that becomes so apparent. You can't learn that in university. You can't learn that in college. You can't learn that while you are bubbled up. And a lot of you know this because you've gone through experiences where you could not escape any consequences of your decisions, and you had to look yourself in the eye and say, "Okay, you decided this. This is the consequence. You got to own it." From that comes a really deep sense of empowerment, because everything that we ever talk about here that truly is the path to freedom is about responsibility. And freedom means taking full responsibility for your own life on all levels, no questions asked, right? I mean, on all levels. And you realize you can really only um, verify the truths that I'm sharing here when you put them to the test, when they're not theoretical, when these things become necessities, then you realize they're either true or they're not true. And very, very quickly, when you're hot and thirsty and hungry and you know you're not going to eat today, not because you're fasting, but because there's nothing to eat, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to order, uh, very quickly you realize this is a consequence of all the decisions I made, and there's no one to blame. This is just a situation I find myself, and you can make peace with that, and you can find strength in that, and you can find inspiration in that. Number 5, I think this is one that I haven't, to be honest, I haven't put fully to the test yet because I have never put myself long enough in this kind of situation. But we went out with an incredible guide, and in the future we're going to introduce him to you, and I think the world's going to know him. He's a special young man, very very special, and he lived out He lived out in the woods for 3.5 months. That was the longest that he went completely gone on his own, um, fending for himself. And so this is a lesson that he learned, and it I think it gave him a lot of strength. But only when you look at lesson number 6, which I'm going to share in a moment, can you see the full picture. So he says, here's the thing: I can survive on my own. I've put it to the test. I know I can do it. And which means that if you were to put it to the test, um, I would say that most people that are um, in in a certain physical condition, I mean, I have to put some disclaimers to it, that are in a certain physical condition can survive. So you can survive on your own. So that is a truth. But survival is, if you live your life in pure survival, that makes, and that's also, what he said is it takes away a lot from who we are as social beings, as it takes away a lot from the journey, but it is possible. But here's lesson number 6, which this leads up to, is it takes a village to thrive. And I think in our self-centered world, in our ego-driven world, in our narcissistic world, this has become very, very forgotten. That, and we've seen this out in the woods. So we were 6 guys, and I only, and there were some very fundamental things that needed to be done. And so with 6 people, you can divvy that up, and 2, 2 guys will take care of this, and 2 guys will take care of that. And so a certain amount of things gets done that needs to get done. Or you don't drink, you don't eat, you don't have shelter, you don't have warmth, you don't have some of the things that you even need to survive if that doesn't happen. And I think life for us here in this realm was designed to be lived within communities that don't just live next to each other, that don't just barely know each other, but that live and work with each other. And when you're in this natural setting, purely natural setting, you also realize that the part of the village that you don't realize, the village is nature. Like, that is a part of it. Right. So you have these elements, you have these 6, in our case, 6 people, but then you have the 7th person, the 7th member, which is nature. You have to live with that. It's part of the community. And you can't live against it, and you can't just basically live despite of it. You live with it. And we have lost that sense as humans very, very much, because we can, like I say, we one thing that we do is, and when you're out there, you realize this. We live in a box, a house, for example. We live in a box, and then we get into a small box with wheels to drive on paved road to get to another box, where we do something that will get us paper or plastic, so we can go and purchase stuff in another box to bring it home to our own box. And you kind of realize this, uh, it's sort of, there is some insanity to this entire process, right? And what you realize more than anything is that for life to be something enjoyable, and for you to thrive, and for the truth to be able to appear on a larger scale, it takes a village, it takes a community, it takes working together. So yes, you can most likely survive on your own, and people have proven it in throughout time. But something worthwhile, something really enjoyable, I don't think can be built. I don't think you can raise children on your own. You can certainly raise them and make sure that they survive, but everything that they need to have a really well-rounded experience, I don't think it can happen by just one person. And You know, I applaud every single parent. Like I applaud them for doing what needs to be done and doing the very best they can. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing but respect. We've known some people, a friend of ours that unfortunately recently passed away, but she raised 5 children on her own. Incredible, incredible, and did the very best she could to be positive about life and show that to her children. But that is a incredible task, and at the same time, it's a sad story. It shouldn't be this way. It does take a village. It does take community. It does take family. It does take all of that. And just roughing it out on our own, well, we can survive, but uh, the kind of enlightenment, if you want, or a more enlightened life, I don't think that that happens in that way. And lesson number 7 became so clear: life is built from the ground up. What does that mean? Is we are we are racing in this society to accomplish all these things and to acquire all these things and to sort of even those who realize what's going on, sort of keeping up with the Joneses a little bit. I'm not talking necessarily about you and me, but just as a general theme. And so often, what are these? What does this mean from the ground up? What are these basic necessities? Where, for example, to live in a healthy and thriving avatar, that is for so many people on the priority list way down. But how can you build anything else in your life with that is healthy and good and positive if this isn't in its best possible state? And what that means it has varying degrees for whatever your pre-existing conditions are. I get that, but to focus on making this the best possible it can be, and then going, okay, so what are my most basic needs, and what are the most basic needs of my family and community, and being able to provide them for yourself. That is from ground up. So that's where it starts. And we sort of skip all this because we have Walmarts and other grocery stores that don't really sell food, just imitation of it, and that don't give us the tools to be healthy. But we think that we don't need to think about that anymore. We think that we don't need to pay attention because that's provided. That's what the system provides. But the system provides sickness. The system provides distractions. It doesn't provide the real thing. So life, and especially a thriving life, is really built from the ground up. And I think every community, every family has to get back to the basics and start with that. That's what we've been doing for many years now by focusing on one thing at a time. Do what you can with what you have where you are. So, for example, if you have any chance doing that, putting in a garden, starting that, learning that, um, having the experience, there's almost a zero chance that the first year that you starting a garden, that's going to feed you. Like you're going to get some of it. When you, for the first time, harvest a salad, like, Christine will start the salads earlier in the year inside, and then, set that into the dirt outside. And then when you harvest that for the first time and you cut that salad off and 5 minutes later you eat it, now you're then as close as you are as you can be to experiencing how it was actually designed to be. And so when you start, rather than focusing on how am I going to get the next car, or how am I going to advance to the next level in society, and all these artificial things, when you start focusing on the basics and have this as a vision, a goal, okay, so I really want to be able to provide for me and my family, just the basics for now, but in a way that I am actually responsible. I'm actually taking ownership for over that. And when you can do that to a certain degree, there's a fulfillment that you can never get by just simply going to the store and buying it. I don't care how good the store is. I don't even care how good the farmer's market is. And that can be the best produce that you get there. There's something different about your own energy in your own space, or a space that you cultivate. Doesn't even have to be, maybe you're cultivating someone else's backyard because they don't want to, but you were there. You watered that crop, you watched it grow, you gave it love. Like, um I watch Christine for hours and hours sometimes, and of course I take part in it too, but she's really the driving force, like, you know the bulk of it. And she talks to the plants, and she touches them, and she knows every single plant, and she knows in what state it's in. She can feel its condition, and she interacts with it. So by the time that you eat that tomato or that salad or the cucumber, there's a relationship. There's a I mean, it's an interaction that is incredible, and it feels different when you eat it. And that is building life from the ground up, from the basics. And I think, and this is what we talked about too, out in the woods, and sort of some of the thoughts that I had while I laid down in the dirt, and and had some spiders and whatnot, and crickets and whatnot jump all over me at times. Those are the thoughts, and that we shared with each other, is that the community of people that is making it through this incredibly transition, or incredible transformative and very challenging time, these are all qualities and true necessities that we need to embrace again, that we need to bring back to the forefront again. And you can't fix any of what is going on in the world, in society, in politics, in the economy, without returning to the basics first, and getting that in a proper, orderly state. And this is why we talk about the things that we talk about so much. And this is why any solutions that are top down never work. Nothing works from the top down. Everything has to be built from the ground up. And we are rebirthing. We're rebirthing a new reality, if you will. And right now we're still in this very, very vague state, where one version of this reality seems to be so strong and so inevitable to so many people, because they only look at this realm, they only look at this artificial, the technology, the AI, all of that, and they have lost touch with the original, the prime, the natural. And so it seems to be so inevitable that they can't even picture something else. And that's why I must tell you that putting yourself in a position like we did over the last few days, where you are returning to the basics of life, not for a few hours, but for long enough that the consequences become feelable to you. Uh, all those truths that we talk about here, you embody them, you live them, they become reality for you, and that is very, very powerful. So, if you can, I would encourage you to put yourself in a position like that, but do it with someone, or with people that have done it before, that know things about it. Don't just go freaking out in the woods and rough it on your own. But think about this. Think about if that is something that speaks to you, and you can do it to varying degrees. You don't have to go all the way. You can go and sort of start with one aspect of this. But I think we all suffer from a certain level of insanity in this artificial world, and the healing the healing is always in going back to the roots of everything, going back to the basics of everything. That's where the healing lies. And we can only find it when we actually do it, when we actually make a decision to do it. So these were, these are the lessons that are also coming in, because there's another thing, and this is I shared with Christine this morning. We had coffee outside, and I I just we didn't get to talk while I was there, other than when I found a little bar of signal, I just quickly said everything's all right and checked in, but and on purpose too. But another thing is too, you're very busy. You're very busy when you're out there, because every you have to do every little thing. There are no appliances. There is no technology that does something for you. You just have to do it yourself and find a way to do it or find a way around it. And there's a humbling experience, and it takes away almost within a few hours the layer of bullshit, like that. The bullshit is gone because there's no space for it. There's no time for it. I It is something that I really encourage everyone, if you can, to experience. And as I said, I mean, you don't have to rough it the way we did. You can go and start more like maybe a little cabin, but you spend your days in the woods, and you learn how to find water and forage and stuff like that. Uh, and it has a different quality than being in a park. It has a different quality than just going to the woods for an hour. And most certainly, you can't see it in a city. You can't see that. You can't experience that in a city. You simply cannot. I don't care how much you try. There is no way to do that. These artificial structures are built in a way that you can't have that experience. And hence, everything that happens within the confines of these artificial structures are to a certain degree artificial truths. And 99% of the things that go on within these artificial structures do not matter. How do I know? They didn't matter when I was out there. They were not even a factor in my decision making. Whether my appearance would offend someone, or whether the guy that I need to do something with and that we need to work together on something, what he freaking identifies as has no bearing on whether we can drink or eat or build a fire. No, none whatsoever. It does not matter for the basics of life. And that becomes so freaking apparent. So, um, I've shared a lot of these truths before, and these are truths that we live, but they become solidified through experiences like that, and just give you a different perspective. Most importantly, I feel that, um, and we had these conversations too, is I imagine a future where we get through the rough patch here that we're in as the entire world right now, and we get out on the other side of this, and there's a good chance that we will have to build a few things up from the ground again, you know, and I ask myself, who are the people going to be? What are they going to embody? What values? Will they know the basic truths of life? Will they be willing to build that, or will they want others to do it? And will they give in to the comforts of that? And it's my sincere intention to inspire people to become that, to become the builders, as we're rebirthing something new, to become the builders of that. Literally, view yourself as builders of a new reality, a new civilization moving forward. That to me is an inspiring thought, and it takes a village. I think we have to most definitely move away from the idea that there are some central figures, some people out there, some king-like or queen-like figures that will do it for us, and start doing it now, and do what you can with what you have where you are. It's become a very deep motto. to become the best possible version of yourself and to build the best possible life. And the truth, let the truth be your guiding light. That's it. Um, I want to thank you for tuning in, and I'm going to go and really describe our experience out there in more detail, how we did it, what we had, what we didn't have, in the Coffee and Truth show today. That's at 1 p.m. Central, so 15 minutes from now. I put the link to the show in the description. That's for our supporters and locals. Beautiful, beautiful community, and as I said so many times before, really we love the depth, the interaction, the community. Um, the connection so deep actually, and there are no trolls, no bots. That doesn't happen on locals. And so, for 19 cents a day we keep the trolls away. That's kind of it's become a slogan there. So I'd love to see you there, tell you more about our trip into the wilderness, and give you some of the insights that it's not fancy, I'll tell you that, but it was beautiful, a fantastic experience, just wonderful. And I got to share it with my son, which was that much more special. All right, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you, we appreciate you, and we will be back with you again very, very soon.